Chapter 5 Surrounded. Mrs. Burke was standing outside her door. She was tall and her face was long. She looked like an egret, a bird with long legs that catches fish in the water. I was the fish. Her glasses had bright orange frames. Her eyes were looking right at me. I tried not to look back. When I got to the door, I gave her a quick smile and tried to slip by. She caught my arm with her bony firecracker exploding fingers. I didn't mean to scream, but I did. She let go of my arm and squinted at me. Her glasses fell off her nose and swung from the chain around her neck. What's wrong? She asked. What happened? Nothing, I said. Mr. Bumpers, she said, you walked in here like you were headed to prison. Um, I, I, I stammered. Welcome to Mrs. Burke's top security penitentiary, she said with an evil smile. I looked at her. I'd never heard that word. Penitentiary means prison, she said. I knew it, and I was going to be locked up here for a whole year. She looked down at the papers she was holding. I could see that the one on top was a seating chart. I hate seating charts. Let's see where your cell is going to be, she said, squeezing my shoulder with her exploding fingers so I couldn't escape. Ah, yes, I know all about you, Charlie Bumpers. I have a special place for you. You're in the third seat in the second row. I nodded and started to walk toward my desk. Charlie, she said to me. I turned back. She was looking at my feet. I'm so glad to see you're wearing both of your shoes. Alex McLeod was sitting in the front of the class. He was already having trouble staying in his seat. Mr. Romana used to say that Alex had crazy legs and they had to move constantly or they would fall off. One of his crazy legs stuck out and nearly tripped me. Charlie, Alex said, where are you sitting? By me? No, I said, back there. I walked down the aisle and sat in my seat. I put my new stuff in my desk very carefully. Last year, I got good grades on my final report card, but at the bottom, Mr. Romano wrote that I had a hard time being organized. I remember his exact words. Next year, Charlie should work harder on keeping things neat and orderly. This will make life easier for him and everyone else around him. I know he can do it. My parents had read that to me 3 times. I put the plastic pen and pencil holder in one corner of my desk and the big binder in the other. I put the scissors and notepads down near the bottom, right in the exact center. Everything was perfect. Hi, Charlie, Ellen Holmes said, sliding into the desk just in front of mine. Hi, Ellen, I said. I was glad she was in front of me. Ellen is funny and kind of smart, and she spends most of her time drawing horses. She collects little plastic horse models, and she has a million books about horses. Last year, she kept one of her horse books on her lap and read it while everyone else was doing math. Josh Little sat at the desk on my right. One day in second grade, in front of the whole school, Mrs. Ratelli used him as an example of someone who was polite. I felt sorry for him. No one wants a principal to point out how polite you are in front of everybody. Then a kid I'd never seen before sat on my left. Hi, I said. My name's Charlie. Are you new? He just nodded. He was wearing glasses with black frames, and his clothes were all new. His shirt was tucked into his pants. He looked very neat, like someone who would take a bath without even being told. His sneakers were new, too. They were exactly like mine, except he hadn't colored them with a marker and they were still white. What's your name? I asked. He said something that sounded like Akator. He held up his notebook and pointed to his name printed in big letters on the front. Oh, I said, hi, Hector. He gave me a little wave and looked back down. He seemed kind of shy. I just moved here, he said, without exactly looking at me. He just kept staring down at the stuff in his desk. I decided not to tell him he would have been better off staring where he was before, far from Mrs. Burke. Good luck, I said, nodding toward her desk. We're all going to need it. His face broke out into a big smile. Then he covered his mouth with his hand like he was smiling too much and his face might fall off. I leaned over and whispered to him, Watch out for Mrs. Burke. He shrugged. It's okay. That's what he thinks, I said to myself. But then he did look like the kind of kid who always did what he was supposed to do. He probably'd never have to stay in from recess. When Hector finished organizing the things in his desk, he just sat there not saying anything. He's not messy, I thought, and I'll bet he's smart, too. Now all the desks in my corner were taken except the one right behind me. I wished Tommy was in my class and that was his seat. I heard a loud voice at the front of the room. Samantha Grunsky. Boogers! Samantha Grunsky had been in my class every year. She's the kind of kid who always reminds you how smart she is. She drives me crazy. Last year in social studies, I did my report on the rainforest. I spent a lot of time making a rainforest in a terrarium. I worked on it for a whole month. Samantha Grunsky did the rainforest too, but her parents ordered actual rainforest plants for her, and she typed out this really long report herself. When we brought our reports in, she pointed out to Mr. Romano that I had spelled arboreal and nocturnal wrong on my poster. Samantha Grunsky is a bozo, even if she is smart. She turned down my aisle and walked toward me. Oh, no, she said. Look who I'm sitting behind. Oh, no, I said. Look who I'm sitting in front of. She crossed her eyes at me. I'm sure Mrs. Burke made a mistake giving me this seat. Once she gets to know me, she'll see that I should be in the seat near this front so she can call on me easier. I looked at everyone around me and then I looked at Mrs. Burke. I remembered what she'd said to me when I came in. I know about you. Right then, I realized what Mrs. Burke was doing. She had surrounded me with kids who were really neat and behaved all the time and did what they were supposed to do because she wanted me to be neat and good too. Hector, the new kid, was probably put there because he didn't talk much and never did anything wrong. I looked over at him. He was staring at my shoes. I wondered if I was going to have to throw one at him to make him stop gawking at them. This was going to be a long, long year.